Level 2, Categorical Syllogisms. Step 1, Standard form for a categorical syllogism. As you learned in the important concepts section of this lesson, we've actually already placed this argument into standard form. We can see that it is composed of 3 A-type sentences and it is of figure 1. So if you don't understand that yet, go to the important concepts section again and review. Step 2, assessing for validity. The way, at least one way to assess categorical syllogisms for validity is to refer to this table right here. Now there's actually many sources for this. I'm taking this particular table from Manji 2017, who's helpfully put these into a table for us so we can see when each of the moods and figures are valid. So here is our rule. If an argument mood and figure is on the preceding table, table 12.2, then the argument is valid. If not, then the argument is invalid. So as you can see, the mood is AAA and the figure is 1. Is AAA 1 on this table? Yes, it's right there. And it turns out that that particular row is unconditionally valid. No matter what, it will always be valid if it has that mood and that figure. Very simple. That means that this argument is valid. Okay, let's do another example. The first step we have to do is, well, make sure this is in standard form. So, step 1, standard form. Recall that you have to make sure that the subject class of the conclusion is found in the second premise and the predicate class of the conclusion is found in the first. So a simple switch here will do that for us. There you go. And the way I like to remind myself of this is that I kind of like to use a hook metaphor. So what I mean by that is just a typical hook like that you might hang things off. You have to hang the subject of the conclusion to whatever's closest to it, which is obviously the second premise. And then the second hook, you attach it to the first premise, the predicate of the conclusion. So I don't know if that's helpful to you. That's sort of the way I envision it. Okay, let's get rid of this hook stuff. Okay, now that we've placed it into standard form, we need to recognize that it is composed of an E, an I, and an O statement. So with that in place, one other thing we have to do is figure out its figure. As it turns out here, the middle term, that's what we have to look for, which is fish in this case. The middle term appears in the predicate in the first premise and in the subject in the second premise. So that means that we are looking at a figure 4. As you can see, the middle term there in figure 4, the middle term is the predicate in the first premise and the subject in the second premise. So we are looking at an EIO 4. Now, is EIO 4 here in our table? Let's look. It is. It's right there. And again, in the same row, that means it is unconditionally valid. That, my friends, is how you use the table method, if you want to call it that. This means that this argument is valid once more. Hooray.